look at this redwood mother. What you want?
To give you a choice. See, you're in my house, fatso, and you didn't ask permission. So you and your friends can leave now, or they can carry your fat ass out in a bucket. Now I'll count to 3.
Bitch. Do you know who you're talking to?
1, 2.
I'm Sharonda Williams, and welcome to Prime Video Recaps. Welcome to Prime Video Recaps, where I will be recapping some of our favorite Prime Video original titles in order for you to catch up before binging a new season. With Season 2 of Reacher premiering on December 15th, I thought you might need a little reminder of what happened in Season 1 of Reacher. Reacher, based on a book series by Lee Child, focuses on Jack Reacher, a highly trained and intelligent military police officer who lives life on his own terms. While arriving in the small town of Margrave, Georgia, Reacher is arrested for murder and must use his wits and fists to prove his innocence. In Margrave, Georgia, 2 silenced gunshots go off as a body drops to the ground. A man tries to run away but is caught by the gunman's bullet and is killed. Reacher is dropped off outside the town of Margrave and walks the remaining distance into the city. Reacher arrives at a diner, and before he can take a bite of his peach pie, the police show up and arrest him for murder. Reacher is booked by Officer Roscoe Conklin and is asked why he was in Margrave. He is questioned by Chief Detective Oscar Finley, and he tells the officer he isn't responsible for the murder and gives him some words of wisdom.
In an investigation, details matter.
Reacher gives Finley his alibi, and he is stuck in a holding cell until it can be confirmed. Finley and Roscoe speak with a potential new suspect, Paul Hubble, as his cell number was found at the crime scene. Paul sees a car parked outside as if someone was watching him and confesses to the murder, but has no details on how it was committed. Reacher is let go, but he tells Finley that one of his officers, Officer Stevenson, is hiding something. Stevenson tells Finley that he personally took Paul Hubble home after a party, so there is no way he will be responsible for the murder. Finley decides to send both Reacher and Paul to jail together so he can figure out why Paul will confess to a murder he didn't commit. Paul is not having a good time in prison so far, but Reacher steps in to protect him. Paul tells Reacher he was forced to help some bad people with a financial scheme. Reacher is attacked in the prison shower, but he definitely holds his own. A guard finds Reacher and Paul and asks why they were placed in Gen Pop and not upstairs. They are taken to a portion of the prison where they are protected. We find out the guard Spivey placed the duo in Gen Pop where a gang tried to take them out. Paul's bosses are responsible, and Reacher wants to know why. Paul and Reacher are released from prison. Roscoe picks Reacher up. Reacher and Roscoe head to the thrift store, which is the only place he can find clothes for his stature. Reacher decides to go explore the town as he sees a black truck following him. He goes to get a shave, and Mr. Mosley, the town barber, tells him the Kleiner Foundation has been taking care of Margrave since Mr. Kleiner moved back to set up his company. The mayor and Mr. Kleiner are close, and the mayor gave his friend a good land deal for his factory. In return, Kleiner pumps money back into Margrave. Reacher sees the black truck that was following him again and confronts KJ, who is Mr. Kleiner's son and the driver of the black truck. KJ tells Reacher about the charges brought up against him in Baghdad, then mysteriously disappeared and tells him to watch his back. Reacher returns to the police station and is told that there is another dead body. Finley tells Reacher he can't leave town until they figure out who the killer is. Finley, Roscoe, and Reacher look at the body, and Reacher reveals that the victim of the first murder was his brother. Reacher vows to find everyone responsible for his brother's murder and kill whoever is responsible. Finley tells Roscoe to follow Reacher and make sure he doesn't get into any trouble. Roscoe convinces Reacher to get in the police car so they can question Paul together. Paul's wife, Charlie, tells him that he won't be back until later. They begin to question his wife about her husband's dealings, but she says she doesn't know anything. Reacher discovers that Paul was the one the men in the prison were trying to take out and not him. He thinks Paul's employers have already captured him. Reacher heads to a motel but is stopped by a group of men looking to pick a fight with him. Let's just say they don't stand a chance. Reacher heads to the police station and Roscoe tells him that Chief Morrison was murdered. Reacher observes the crime scene and thinks that the same people who killed his brother are responsible for the chief's death. Reacher thinks Officer Baker, one of Finley's officers, knows exactly who is responsible for the murder. Reacher and Roscoe head to the Hubble's house. Charlie tells them that her husband didn't come home last night, but he called to say he was sorting out some banking madness. Till calls an emergency town meeting and tells everyone he has appointed himself as the acting chief of police. Reacher and Finley both think that Chief Till is dirty and is connected to the people responsible for the murder. Finley gets his FBI contact in Atlanta to put the Hubble family into protective custody until they can figure out what happened to Paul. Reacher has a conversation with Spivey, but Spivey has set him up and the two men try to kidnap him. Reacher holds his own, but they get away. He determines the men were from the South American military. Roscoe tells Reacher his brother was working in the Secret Service division within Homeland Security. Roscoe takes Reacher to a bar in Alabama so he can unwind without getting into any bar fights. Roscoe asks Reacher to dance and they get close on the dance floor. As the two leave, they aren't able to head back to Margrave due to flooding on the roads. Instead, the two share a motel room until they can go back into town. Roscoe and Reacher head to her house and they notice the house has been broken into with a note on her door saying, "See you soon." Roscoe is not too happy that her house has been broken into. She gives Reacher a gun from her mentor, Mr. Gray. Reacher and Roscoe fill Finley in on what happened over some lunch, and let's just say Reacher wasn't too pleased about Finley's order.
And for you, spinach salad, dressing on the side.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was embarrassed ordering that.
Pete Jobling is identified as the other body found on the night of Reacher's brother Joe's murder. Roscoe receives a phone call from Molly Beth Gordon with the Secret Service. Reacher tells Molly that Joe was dead. She tells them that Joe was the director of the Office of Investigations and ran the anti-counterfeiting department. He was working on a classified case, investigating counterfeit money internationally. Finley sends Reacher to Zacharias Perez, LLC to investigate Jobling's arrest, which they assisted with. Till has Roscoe looking into criminals who the former Chief Morrison was responsible for putting away. Officer Stevenson asks Roscoe why his cousin Charlie isn't picking up the phone. Finley goes to check in on Spivey's house, and he sees his last few calls made on his phone were to Kleiner Industries. Before Finley can finish looking at Spivey's place, he is attacked by the Alton police. Reacher asks Zacharias Perez for Jobling's file, but he tells him no. Reacher uses an unorthodox method to get Perez to give him the file. Finley is released from jail once they find out he is a cop. Reacher finds out that Jobling was a trucker working for South Freight Shipping, a company contracted by Kleiner Industries. Kleiner paid Jobling's legal fees when he was arrested. Finley and Reacher go to Kleiner Industries to have a chat with Mr. Kleiner. Finley asks why he paid for Jobling's legal fees, and Mr. Kleiner is insulted by the questioning. Kleiner warns Finley to stop looking into Kleiner Industries, and Finley has some choice words for him.
You might think you're everybody's daddy in this town, but you're not mine. You don't tell me what leads to chase and how to chase them. So if I may give you some friendly advice, if you keep talking to the cops on my force, hinder this investigation in any way, I will put my foot up your ass until your heart stops.
Reacher tells Finley he isn't safe anymore and he needs to leave his home. KJ Kleiner is waiting for Roscoe as she goes to her car. He tells her about the civilians Reacher killed in Baghdad and how he used his connections to get them off. Finley heads to Atlanta to get more info on Hubble, and he finds out that Hubble quit his job over a year ago. Reacher uses an interesting way to question the bar patrons about Spivey's whereabouts. He was told Spivey was picked up by two men. Reacher is being followed by the same two men who grabbed Spivey. He kills the duo and looks into the trunk of their car where he finds Spivey dead. Spivey is dead with a gunshot to his head. Reacher takes the body of the two men and stuffs them into the trunk with Spivey. Finley, Reacher, and Roscoe investigate an abandoned and burnt rental car that they think could be Joe's. Reacher tells him what happened to Spivey and the two killers from South America, but Finley isn't too happy with the update. Roscoe asks Reacher what happened in Baghdad. He says he was 40 clicks north of Baghdad and was checking on a group of boys he saw every day. He found out that they were being abused by a group of men and he killed them after they wouldn't turn themselves in. Roscoe helps Reacher dispose of the car with the bodies in it. Mary Beth calls and Roscoe and Reacher are going to meet her in Atlanta so she can hand over Joe's files about the case he was working on. Reacher and Mary Beth talk more about Joe. Roscoe and Reacher have an intimate moment with each other. Reacher and Roscoe go to visit Jobling's wife, but they find his parents instead. Jobling's mother gives him the address of where Jobling lived with his wife. Till confronts Finley about his last conversation with Mr. Kleiner and threatens his job if he doesn't leave Mr. Kleiner alone. Finley gets a call from Picard about Hubbell's family being in witness protection. Finley tells him that he can meet up with Reacher and Roscoe to give them new information he found. Reacher and Roscoe talk to Jobling's wife, and she doesn't seem to be broken up that he is dead. Reacher and Roscoe meet with Picard. Picard gives them an update on the VIN number, and they get the information about where his brother Joe was staying while working on the case. They head to the motel, but his brother's belongings were already taken by one of the South Americans. They find his stuff dropped in the dumpster. Reacher finds a piece of paper, but then they are immediately fired at by the South Americans. Roscoe and Reacher are able to escape the men. Reacher thinks that Stevenson is dirty and that they were listening in on Finley's call, which led the men to them. Finley, Reacher, and Roscoe try to decipher Joe's notes. They find out that Joe was trying to get a hold of economics professors in the EPA. Reacher reaches out to a private investigator, Nellie, to investigate the JW initials for someone in the Memphis EPA. Finley, Reacher, and Roscoe go to meet Mary Beth at the train station, but she disappears. Reacher finds Mary Beth stabbed with the files gone and she dies in his arms. Reacher rescues a new furry friend. Reacher goes into the Hubbell's residence for some new wills. Reacher sees someone has painted something on Roscoe's car and finds KJ, who he thinks is responsible for the crime. Things get a little too heated, but Finley and Roscoe show up to break things up. Till calls Roscoe and fires her over the phone. Reacher, Finley, and Roscoe head back to her house to check a box her mentor Gray left her. Reacher finds a secret compartment with a key in it. Reacher realizes the key goes to a box in Mr. Mosley's barbershop. They find the files Gray had on Kleiner Industries, but it's not enough information to prosecute him. Roscoe realizes that Gray never committed suicide. He was murdered because he was getting close to finding the truth. Nellie calls Reacher and tells him she found information that she can't share over the phone. JW was an EPA investigator named Jimmy Dupree Wilkes, but he was murdered and his body was beaten post-mortem, just like Reacher's brother. A Memphis cop by the name of Coin thought something was suspicious about the murder as well. JW was looking into toxic pollution levels in the Mississippi. Roscoe goes to talk to Jasper about the autopsy report about Gray, and she asks if the wound on his head could have been caused by something else. They see that it looks like a diamond caused the wound on Gray's head. Reacher and Nellie go to speak with Rufus about how toxic the river is. He tells them the EPA came and asked questions and did nothing, and Reacher tells him the investigator was killed. The CI tells Reacher that Clarn Chemicals was responsible for dumping toxins into the river. They think this is why Kleiner Industries moved to Margrave. Roscoe pays Till an unfriendly visit and hits him since she knows he is responsible for Gray's murder. Reacher and Nellie go to speak with Officer Coin's CI Trace. He tells him someone called the Viking is responsible for getting rid of the cops. Finley tells Reacher what Roscoe did and that Till issued a warrant for her arrest. Roscoe leaves town and is going to watch over the Hubbell family to relieve Picard. Coin's partner shoots him after the South Americans get to him and scare him. Reacher and Nellie cause the car to crash into the river. Ribideau says the men who threatened him had accents. Reacher and Nellie escape the river. Nellie heads back to Memphis to see what she can find out about the Viking, and Reacher heads back to Margrave. Finley breaks into Kleiner Industries and finds Mr. Kleiner dead in his office. Finley shows Reacher a picture of the dead Kleiner. Finley gets a call from the station about Kleiner's body. KJ storms into the station and tries to punch Finley. Till bitches Finley from the investigation until things cool down. Finley tells Reacher his wife died. They are outside of Kleiner Industries and see Kleiner's nephew making a delivery and decide to follow him. Roscoe is with Charlie Hubbell and her daughters, and Roscoe sees someone out in the woods potentially watching them. Reacher and Finley's trail goes cold. Reacher wants to look into the professors again, but he is notified that William Bryant was murdered earlier the morning after he landed from his flight. Reacher calls Professor Castillo, who is mentioned in Joe's letter, and she answers. He tells her to follow his instructions so she can stay alive before he gets to New York. Roscoe is able to get Charlie and her daughters to safety. They head to a diner to be out in the open, and Charlie tells her that she knows exactly where her husband was working. She tells Roscoe that Mr. Kleiner wanted to meet with Paul and offer him the opportunity to help him with his clients in Venezuela. Mr. Kleiner offered Paul 4 times his salary to get him to come work for him. Kleiner tricked Paul into laundering money without knowing the money was counterfeit, so he was forced into working for him. Reacher gets a suit and poses as Stephanie Castillo's attorney as he tells her to go to the police precinct so she isn't harmed. She tells him she was working with his brother as one of the lead experts on international and domestic monetary policy. Castillo and Bryant were experts on the theoretical effect of mass undetectable counterfeiting on a global scale. Joe made it hard to counterfeit money, but he saw that someone else found a loophole and that it was being done in Georgia. Reacher realizes the money was being made in Georgia and shipped to Venezuela. When Reacher leaves the police station, someone tries to take him out. Stevenson is having a conversation with his wife and they are expecting a child together. Outside their home, a group of men in white suits and rubber shoes arrive, just like before the other murders. Finley picks up Reacher for the airport as he returns to Georgia from New York. Finley stops by Kleiner's funeral, but the town doesn't seem to be too happy with his presence there. Kleiner's nephew threatens him at the funeral, but Finley tells him to be careful with his words. Reacher goes to pick up the car he was having tinted when Finley receives the call about Stevenson and his wife's murder. Reacher determines that Stevenson wasn't dirty and he was tortured to see what he knew and if he was working with Reacher, Finley, and Roscoe. Till shows up to the crime scene and fires Finley on the spot. Reacher takes Officer Baker to lunch to get information out of him. Reacher puts the blame on Finley and tells him that he is going to search the Hubble's house to find answers. Finley tells Stevenson's parents about his murder. The men in white show up outside of the Hubble house to take out Reacher, but he is already one step ahead of them. He neutralizes the men, but the last one puts up a good fight until Reacher kills him. Reacher calls Roscoe and tells her that Kleiner Chemicals found a way to recreate the paper used to make the counterfeit money out of used bills, and that they used the animal feed as a way to cover it up. Reacher is going to go back to Jobley's house and look for the counterfeit bills. Reacher calls to fill Finley in, but Till has sent men after him. Reacher talks Finley through how to escape and he does. They both meet up at Jobley's house but find that it was burned down. Reacher and Finley head to Jobley's parents' house and they find the money hidden in a box. Reacher receives a call from Nilly and they realize Picard is in on the operation as well. He walks into the house to find Picard, Till, and KJ with a gun pulled on Finley and now him. The three men have Roscoe and the kids and threaten to harm them if Reacher doesn't do what they tell him. KJ says that Paul Hubble is on the run in an effort to protect his family. KJ confesses to killing his dad, Jodling, Morrison, Molly Beth, and his brother. KJ tells Reacher to go with Picard and track down Paul in exchange for Roscoe and the Hubble family. Reacher tells Picard he thinks Paul went to Augusta. Reacher steals a fork from the diner and stabs it into the tire as he and Picard head to Augusta to look for Paul. Officer Baker is torturing Finley. Reacher pulls over as he has a flat tire. Picard tells Reacher to change the tire, but Reacher gets a gun and they are in a standoff. Reacher shoots Picard but doesn't see his body and drives away. Reacher finds Paul in Augusta, and he fills him in on what is going on with his family and the investigation. Reacher makes an entrance at the police station as he crashes into Officer Baker in order to save Finley. Nilly joins in on the fun as Paul, Reacher, and Finley head to Kleiner Industries to end this once and for all. The team makes an explosive entrance into the building. Paul is able to rescue his girls and get them to safety. Reacher unties Roscoe and Charlie, and Roscoe joins in on the fight. Picard and Finley face off as Finley kills him. Roscoe and Till go at it until she ends up killing him as well. Reacher sets KJ ablaze, literally. The building explodes, but not before Reacher makes it out safely. Reacher and Roscoe part on good terms. Reacher and Finley meet at a diner where he finally gets to taste the best peach pie in the state. Reacher also finds a way to honor his brother and heads back out to his nomadic lifestyle as Season 1 comes to a close. Thank you for watching the Reacher edition of Prime Video Recaps. Don't forget, Season 2 of Reacher premieres on December 15th, only on Prime Video.